Congratulations, you've unlocked a new level in my YouTube channel. I'm now filming from my dressing room. And I think it is a very good filming room because I get a little more light in here. But it's also very cloudy today, so we're just doing the best we can. In terms of leveling up, I am also going to try to be more consistent with my thumbnails because they've been very chaotic and all over the place. Today I'm talking about the Romans 8 verse where it says that all things work together for good for believers, and how that can apply realistically in our lives, even though it feels like sometimes things are not working out for good, and sometimes it feels like things are in fact working out for the worse. We can go back to scripture and believe on God's word that all things in some way, shape, or form at some time in our lives will work together for good, even if that is not revealed to us until we go to be with Christ. I think my first really bad life experience was when I had my first breakup, and I was 17, so it was very immature, and I think it just ended very messy. And to this day, I still feel guilty about how it ended because I feel like it was just not handled well on my part. And obviously, on his part, I don't really have anything to say, but I think on his part also, obviously, there was immaturity because we were both 17. I felt completely I felt like I lost my other half during that time. So it felt like I just felt like I would never get over him and I would never recover. But obviously I am happily married now, so you do get over people and situations. But I think the bigger lesson was learning to run to God when something horrible happens versus trying to solve things on our own. If I had tried to handle things God's way, I think I would have had less bad feelings about the way things ended. But even with things ending so badly, I think it just taught me a lot about having grace for people and being a person that I could respect the next morning. A lot of times people make decisions when they're emotional that are not good, and the worst thing you can do is feel like you've done something that leads to having regret. Everything that happened was for my good. I grew emotionally, I grew in my maturity, and I did not make those mistakes again when they really mattered with the person that I would be with forever. And so for me, that's a win. I'm not saying that this other person was a practice person, but it was just helpful to learn from my mistakes and be a better wife and a better girlfriend in the future. I think we're all a little toxic sometimes. But yeah, I had a lot of guilt, and I am saying that I think that situation worked out for good. The most evidence of my breakup working out for good was me just being super close to God the year after, and really thinking about what I wanted for myself and for my spiritual journey. And as a person of faith, I feel like when I get so distracted with relationships, I tend to kind of gravitate away from focusing on my faith. And I've been feeling like that in my married life as well. So it's helpful to learn how to focus on a relationship and building your faith at the same time. It's not easy at all, but it is doable. I have another story for you. I don't know if anyone would be able to relate to this, but it sucks. When we got married last year, we had friends that were in our wedding, and after the wedding, they just kind of stopped talking to us. And that's another thing where I don't know how much I am to blame for that because there was no communication. I tried to resolve things, and the particular girl that I was having problems with in my wedding party just kind of cut me off, and she was dating someone in the wedding party, so he got cut off from me and Ethan as well. And then the other girl in the party eventually cut herself off, even though there was no drama between me and her. But again, like, I feel like that wasn't really well communicated. And also, when you change your life phase, a lot of times people do not want to change over there with you and support you through it. And that's like a normal thing as well. Basically, I just felt like I was not understanding what was going on, but all my friends were just leaving me. And it was just very sad, and I'm still like really sad about it. But again, like, I have to just remember that everything works together for good. And I think for me and Ethan, I think the good thing that came out of all of our friends leaving right after we got married is that we really like had so much time to become each other's best friend. And like, I did literally lose best friends like overnight, or I guess over the course of my wedding, which was a short term, but it wasn't expected. And I was trying really hard to resolve the issues, and it just, people didn't want to resolve them. They wanted to just break off the relationships. So with that happening, Ethan and I really had a lot of time to like build our relationship and become really good friends. And we just were able to spend a lot of time together, which I do not regret a second of that. Like, I would not trade a second of that for a person that could just up and leave my life at any time without any warning. And I do appreciate everything that they did for us and the friendship we had, but I just felt like it was very toxic for me, just having someone like so close to me just decide that I wasn't good enough anymore. That's kind of what it felt like. So it was obviously very emotionally loaded, and I feel like I was really struggling during the first year of marriage just because we didn't have any friends. Like, literally, if we wanted to go hang out with anyone, it would either be like a family member or we would be meeting someone for the first time. And I do also, I do not regret any of the time that we spent with our families. We spent every single weekend, pretty much, since we've been married. We've either gone to my parents or Ethan's parents, and it's just been great. Like, we really enjoyed doing that, and they've just loved having us as well. So we really had a great turnout of the situation where we were able to build really close relationships with our family, which we probably wouldn't have done that if we still had those old friends, because we would probably just go and hang out with them every weekend the way we used to. I also heard this story about, and I've used this story a lot, it's actually very helpful for some reason. You wouldn't think so, but I actually met a woman who had a very, very similar experience with her son who passed away. And I was able to share this story with her, and I think it was encouraging for her. But my Bible study leader from a few years ago told me about this story about this man that lost his 17-year-old son in like just a crazy like vehicle accident. Like, he wasn't even in the like, he was just walking on the road, and he was involved in like a hit and run. And the son was rushed to the hospital, but he unfortunately passed away. And the dad was very bitter about it, and he said, I don't want anything to do with God. His son was a Christian, but from what he was hearing, like, he didn't really know that his son was that much of a Christian until the funeral, when people were like saying, oh, your son was a light in dark times. And the father was even more bitter, like, about just the fact that his son was a Christian and God would still let this happen to his son and his family. He ends up in a church a few years later, and there's this pastor that's, just preaching, and he points to this man and says, Sir, your son is dancing on streets of gold right now. And it was the first time this man had stepped foot into a church building since his son passed away, and so there was no way that the pastor would have known this if it was not a supernatural knowledge. From that church, the father got saved and his family got saved. And basically the result of that story was, even though something terrible and traumatic happened to that family, in which their little boy died at such a young age, they said, literally in their own words, they said, this is probably the best accident that could have happened to us, because of our son passing away, we all were saved. And as a result of that, we will all be in heaven one day. And life is just not worth missing something like that. And so they were just saying how it worked out for their good that their son passed away just because they were saved in the end, which is a very, very crazy thing to be so bold and to say something like that, because obviously it's traumatic life experiences. Like, you don't think, oh, this is actually a great thing that's happened to me. But as Christians, we have the power to turn horrible situations into good things. And you may be struggling with something in your life now or something from the past, and you may think there's no way this is any way a good thing. There's nothing that has come out of this situation in my life that has been good. How can God say that all situations work for good for those who believe in him? And I think there are a lot of unknowns. We don't always see things working for our good right away, but we are assured that they will. One of the examples of this is a story from Ethan and I's married life, which is just a really horrible story, but I will try to keep it super short. Basically, we were robbed when we were doing a wedding cleanup last year. It was only like a month or so after we'd been married. And we left Ethan's truck on the side of the highway and went back to go get a part for it because it had broken down. So this truck, a little context on the truck, we were engaged in it. We had spent a lot of our dating time together involving this truck if we went out somewhere, and Ethan bought it while we were dating. So it was obviously very sentimental for us, and it was like immediately stolen. And you know, you see a lot of vehicles on the side of the road that are broken down. So the fact that this truck got stolen is crazy. It was like a Chevy C10 square body. It was so nice. I remember Ethan bought it and it had like 36,000 miles on it because the previous owners had just left it in a garage kind of and would just drive it around to go to the doctor or something. I think they were an older couple. So it was like just like one of a kind, like one in a million vehicles that meant a lot to us, and we were thinking of selling it, but we never really got the chance to make that decision because someone stole it. So I think that was like a really horrible time for us, and we still haven't seen like, oh, everything works out for good. Like in this situation, it just seems like we had a huge financial loss and a huge emotional loss. And also, we probably could have sold that truck for a lot more each year, like depending how long we kept it in good condition. So it just all around feels like a loss. But I believe that in some way, that story is going to work out for good. And I'm just waiting to see. Maybe we will come across a free truck and that'll balance out the equation of having one stolen. So this verse that I'm kind of basing my video off is from Romans 8. Likewise, the Spirit helps us in our weakness, for we do not know what to pray for as we ought, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words. And he who searches hearts knows what is the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for the saints according to the will of God. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. I think sometimes our attitude can deter things from working out for good. Like if we just are trusting God and keep a good attitude about something, it would, but because we choose to be bitter and choose to not yield ourselves, I think sometimes we can deter. If this video resonates with you today, I would love to hear your thoughts. Please leave a comment, please like, please subscribe. I would love to hear your feedback, and I really hope you guys have a good day today. I myself am about to go to work. So I hope you guys have a good day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.